Who shocked? No one, literally no one. Expect the weird and the weird to get weirder. Do I need to take a crying break to film this video? Hey y'all, my name is Mara. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a super fun video. I'm actually really excited to film this because we're doing my top books of 2020. It is officially 2021, and so I feel safe to finally record this and say what my favorite books of last year were. I just read so many amazing books that it was hard to narrow it down to just 10, and in that 10 it was hard to pick and rank my favorites. So first what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some honorable mentions, and then we're going to launch into my official top 10. And I kind of sort of put it in order of preference, but I have to say that nothing is solidified except for my top 3 and my bottom 2. So 4 to like 8 is kind of just everywhere. Like I might have a book ranked number 4, but it doesn't mean I liked it any more than book number 8, if that makes sense. It was kind of hard for me to pick. It wasn't kind of hard, it was really hard for me to narrow it down. So I can for sure tell you guys my favorite book of the year, which I actually feel will be surprising to some people, and I can confidently tell you guys my top 10 of the year. But that's as much organization as I can give you guys. Don't make me choose between all these books because I gave them all 5 stars. They're all wonderful. But before we launch into that, let's talk about my honorable mentions. Coming in first on honorable mention is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by Victoria Schwab. And I know this might be surprising that it's actually not in my top 10 of the year, but when I compared it to some of the other books that I read, I did really love this. I think that I will reread it one day, and it does hold a special place in my heart, but it was just, again, really hard to decide, and I couldn't pick between this and my other top 10, so this goes in the honorable mention category. This book follows a woman named Addie LaRue who makes a deal with the devil, and basically she can live forever, but the only catch is that everyone she ever meets forgets her name. And then one day she's in a bookstore and then she finds someone who actually remembers her name. And so it's very beautifully written. It has really great characters and really great themes, and I did really love this book, but it didn't quite make it into the top 10 for me. Then another honorable mention is Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. I love Heartstopper. Heartstopper follows a young boy named Charlie, and he's in high school, and then he meets this guy and they might fall in love, and it's just really cute. I love the art style in this. Like, are you kidding me? And it's just really, really cute. I'm very excited to reread this. And yeah, that's all I really have to say about Heartstopper. Then I want to talk about Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is a book that surprised me. It really made me consider romance as a genre that I enjoy because this was one of my first introductions to adult romance. Get a Life, Chloe Brown follows a young woman named Chloe who has a run-in with death. She almost dies, and so she decides to make a list to get a life because she realized that when her life flashed before her eyes, she didn't really have anything that she was looking forward to or like holding on to. And so she makes a list to counteract that. And then she may or may not fall in love with, it's not like a landlord, but there's this guy who like lives in her apartment complex. And it's just really, really cute. I loved the banter in this one, and I loved the characters, and it was just really, really sweet. And I owe it a lot for loving romance. And I think that it's really motivated me to try more romance. Then we have perhaps the most surprising honorable mention, and that is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I ended up giving this one a 4.25 out of 5 stars, but the more I have spent time away from this book, the more I think about it. And so I am just really excited to read the second book in the series. It's like a fantasy romance sort of situation, and this fantasy world, there's someone named the Maiden. So Poppy is our maiden, and she doesn't really have control of her life. The kingdom kind of decides it for her. And then she meets this guy named Hawk, and he's her guard, and it just really picks up from there. It's just a really fun time, and again, it's just one that I think about a lot. And the last 2 books I want to talk about before we move into my official top 10 are both Riley Sager books. I really struggled with where to place these. I didn't know if I wanted to put these on my top 10 or my honorable mention, but when I think about the books that I really, really love, it's not necessarily thrillers, and it's nothing against the genre. It's just not something that I necessarily gravitate towards and always want to pick up. And so I don't think that I'll ever reread these books, but I loved them for what they did for me when I read them. And I'm talking about Home Before Dark and The Last Time I Lied. I loved both of these for different reasons, but also they had a lot in common in just the fact that I love that they surprised me. My favorite thing in a thriller is when I can never guess what's gonna come, and I am just constantly shocked. And Riley Sager really delivered with these 2 novels. Home Before Dark is about a woman named Maggie who goes back to her childhood home that she had to abandon because it was haunted, and her father actually wrote a book about it. And so you're following her in present day after her father has died and investigating this house. And you're also following the dad's book in separate chapters. And so you're kind of investigating, like, is this house really haunted? Is what's happening in this book actually true, or is it made up? And it just has one of my favorite tropes in thrillers, which is it paranormal or is it not? And so I really loved Home Before Dark. And The Last Time I Lied is about a summer camp, and at this summer camp you're following 4 different girls and 3 of them go missing. And the 4th girl actually returns to the camp as an adult, and she tries to figure out what happened to those 3 girls in the past. And again, this is just one that I really loved. The ending had me shook, and I loved it so much. Had me on the edge of my seat. I finished it all in a single sitting, and I was up until like 2 a.m. finishing it. So highly recommend Riley Sager books if you have not picked them up and you do like thrillers, because I think they're really entertaining reads. Now we're moving into my official top 10, which is scary to declare. It's scary to call these books my favorites because, again, I've just read so many incredible books this year. But really quickly, before we launch into my official top 10, I want to just talk about some statistics. Maybe you can guess what my top book of the year is based on this, what's in this category. Comment down below what you think my top book of the year is going to be before you actually get there, because I'm really curious as to what you guys think it is. So really quickly, just some statistics. I just find them really interesting because it kind of shows me what I actually do like to read. I had 6 YA books in my top 10 and 4 adult, no middle grade. And then I had 4 fantasy, 2 contemporary, and 2 mystery thrillers. So that is the breakdown. It kind of reassures me that I do love YA fantasy and I do love adult contemporary. And so let's stop delaying the inevitable and get into my top 10. So coming in at number 10 is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, which I know might be surprising. I feel like I didn't talk about this book the way it deserved on my channel, but I really loved this book and it came to me at the right moment in my life. I just really felt connected to a lot of the themes and messages in this story, and it just had me crying like a baby the entire time. I loved all the characters, and it was just such a sweet, wholesome story. And so The House in the Cerulean Sea follows a man named Linus who works as a social worker for magical orphanages, and he gets a special case to go to a very dangerous magical orphanage, which might actually not be that dangerous. So he goes to this orphanage and he meets these children and he kind of investigates the situation. And the catch with this orphanage is that there is the child of the Antichrist here, so the son of the devil, and it was just so freaking cute. That's all I can really say about this book, besides the fact that everyone loves it. Like, I've not heard a bad review about this book. It is so cute, so worth the hype. Then at number 9 is Catherine House by Elizabeth Thomas, and I feel like people might be surprised this isn't higher on the list, and it's not because I don't love it, because again, all these books got 5 stars for me, but it's the fact that I just read so many other great books, and so this is kind of towards the bottom of the list, but I still loved this book and I still highly recommend it. So Catherine House is a dark academia novel. It's sort of literary suspense, kind of mystery thriller-esque, but not quite. I don't really know what genre I would put it in, so I kind of just categorized it as a mystery thriller, but this book is very intriguing is how I would describe it, because you're at this school called Catherine House, and it's a boarding school where weird stuff just kind of happens, and it's just kind of like you gotta go with the flow. And I feel like this is a book I've talked about a lot on my channel, and I don't want to give you guys too much more of a synopsis because you really gotta go in blind for this book, but all I will say about this one is expect the weird and the weird to get weirder. Coming in at number 8 is Where Dreams Descend, and oh my gosh, you guys, the reason I love this book is just the atmosphere. This is a YA fantasy. It's sort of a Phantom of the Opera meets The Greatest Showman story, and it's just very magical and whimsical, and I loved every single second of being in this story, and I think about it all the time. Like, I just want to reread it. This book just really took me on a journey. Like, I loved being in this world because it doesn't really have very intricate world building. So I feel like this is a book that, while it's a personal favorite for me, I don't necessarily think I can recommend it to everyone just because of how it's told. Like I said, the world building is very loose. And so that's something I loved because I felt like I could construct the world how I wanted to see it. But I can definitely see how this would be annoying to some readers in the fact that you can't visually see everything that's going on the way the author intends, because you're kind of having to do that on your own. So loved this book for the atmosphere. Coming in at number 7 is Scythe by Neil Shusterman. I literally don't have words to describe how much I love this book or any of these books on this list, but Scythe follows this utopian society where death has been eradicated. And in this society, there's something called a scythe, which are people who go and kill people because death's been eradicated. So there's no way to die naturally. Scythes have to kill you. I have just been so mesmerized by this story. I'm actually currently reading the sequel, Thunderhead, right now, and I am loving it still. I loved reading about Rowan and Citra. They're both phenomenal protagonists to read about, and I just love the discussion of morality and death, and everything in this book just made me think so critically, but also not at the same time. And that's my favorite thing about this book, is just the fact that it has all these themes and messages that you can look into and you can really analyze and kind of uncover and unpack, but also at its root, it is just an entertaining story. So love Scythe. I am very glad that I read this before 2020 ended, and now I'm going to finish the rest of the series in this year. Coming in at number 6, Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. I am actually kind of struggling with where to place this book because I feel like it doesn't belong as number 6. I really feel like this is maybe my top 3 or at least top 5. That's why I said like 4 through 8 is very arbitrary. Like these can move around a lot. This is one that I knew was going to be in my top 10 immediately when I read it. And Legendborn is just fantastic. The reason why I love this book is that I was just encaptured by the world. And so when I picked this book up, I immediately cried in the prologue. Like I was shedding tears 3 pages into this book, and so I knew that it was going to pack a punch, and I am just so excited to have this. My boyfriend actually gifted this to me for Christmas, and I need the second book like immediately. Where is it? Because that ending was a lot for me to unpack. But I loved this book. I've talked about it a ton on my channel, I know, and so people might be surprised this isn't higher up on the list. It's still pretty high in my books. Again, I just really struggled with where to place everything, but Legendborn is one that I definitely want to reread, definitely one that I want to talk about until the end of time, and I want everyone to read. I am so glad because I am on Book Talk, and Book Talk knows what's up. Everyone loves Legendborn on Book Talk, as they should. It is everywhere on my For You page, and honestly, I'm not mad about it because y'all got taste, all I'm saying. Legendborn follows a young girl named Bree who gets into an early college program, and so she goes to college, sort of. It's not really actual college, but it's like a program, like I just said. And when she's there, she sees someone do something. I'm not gonna get into it because I don't wanna like spoil anything, but it's very reminiscent of the Shadowhunter world, in my opinion. Like it's not the same thing, but it made me feel the same feelings of when Clary was in the Pandemonium Club. I'm just talking about it and it makes me wanna reread it so bad. It is so good. If you like King Arthur inspired stories, this is the one for you. Like I'm not even kidding. This is one of the best books I've ever read. Coming in at number 5 is the Truly Devious series, but more specifically, I'm talking about The Vanishing Stair. So I love Truly Devious. Again, that's not surprising if you're here on my channel and if you've watched any of my videos recently. I love Truly Devious and I have talked about it a million times. And so I'm sorry to talk about it again, but also I'm really not, because I want you to read it because it is fantastic. This is a book series that really took me by surprise, and specifically The Vanishing Stair is my favorite in the series. I don't think that all the books would make it into my top 10, so that's why I'm kind of grouping them all together, but The Vanishing Stair did that. Like, let me just leave it at that, because that book was a ride. But specifically what I want to say about Truly Devious is that it is just so atmospheric. I think that I figured out this year that I love atmospheric books, and this one definitely hit the nail on the head. I read it in the fall, which I definitely recommend because it has dark academia vibes to it. You're at this boarding school and you're trying to uncover a mystery with the main character, and it just is so much fun. Constantly kept me guessing. I had no idea who did it. I had no idea how the mystery was going to get resolved, and I loved all the characters. There's a great cast of diverse characters in this book series, and it was so good. So if you have not picked up Truly Devious, I definitely recommend checking it out. Coming in at number 4 is American Royals by Catherine McGee. Again, who shocked? No one, literally no one. American Royals is so good because it is so drama filled, and that is just my absolute favorite thing in books, is reading about dramas, because I don't like living it, but I do love reading about it because it's just so much fun to see character dynamics and see how they intake pieces of information and respond to them. This book is messy, y'all. Like, there's parts of the story where characters know certain information and other characters don't, but you know that this character knows and this character doesn't know, and so you just watch it unfold, and it is the best thing ever. It reads like reality television, so super entertaining. If you don't know what American Royals is about, it follows a girl named Beatrice who is the descendant of George Washington, and George Washington was actually not elected president, but was elected the monarch. So Beatrice is in line to be the next queen, and it also follows her sister Samantha, her friend Nina, and also Daphne, who is sort of a rival to them because she's dating one of the siblings of Beatrice. And so there's just a lot of really fun family dynamics and friend dynamics and relationships and drama. It is just juicy, and I loved every minute of it. So I can't wait to reread this series one day. So we're officially getting into my top 3 books, and I actually asked on my Instagram story before I started filming this like 2 hours ago, and I said, what do you guys think my top 3 is? Like, I'm really curious. And to my surprise, no one guessed my 3rd favorite book of the year, which, like, I don't expect you guys to know what my 3rd favorite book of the year is, but people were guessing a lot of other stuff in my top 10, like Catherine House and Legendborn, but no one even thought to like mention this book, Loveless by Alice Oseman, and I hope that I have done Loveless justice and I have talked about it enough on my channel so that you guys know this is a favorite of mine, because this book just blew me away. This is like my favorite YA contemporary that I have ever read in my entire life. I don't know if I can categorize it as YA. It's more like new adult because you're following Georgia, our protagonist, as she's entering her first year of college. And this is basically just a journey of self-discovery and self-love and discovering your identity and what it means. And so Georgia is entering her first year of college, and she is kind of struggling with her sexuality and her relationships. And here she's learning the terms asexual and aromantic. And so she's wondering what those mean and if they apply to her. And it was just such a beautiful, beautiful story. I loved reading about Georgia and Rooney and all of her friends at university. And I just cried so much reading this book. I read it over a 2-week period because I never wanted it to end. I wanted to be in that story for as long as possible because I just loved hanging out with the characters, and I really felt connected to all of them. I really felt like I could find a piece of myself in each and every one of the characters in this book, and that's what made it so special to me. So I highly recommend Loveless if you guys haven't read it yet. Definitely my favorite YA contemporary of the year. All right, we're getting into my top 2 now. So I feel like this is the part that's gonna shock everyone. Like, no one's gonna see this coming because I didn't even see it myself coming. And so my number 2 book of the year is Beartown by Frederick Bachman. It's not my number 1. It's not. I have thought long and hard about this. It has haunted me at night. I just could not pick between this and my top book of the year. And so they're very, very close. But I love these books for different reasons. So the reason why Beartown is number 2 is because it made me feel all these emotions, and the emotion that I felt most prominently when reading this book was rage, because this book follows a small town community called Beartown who is obsessed with hockey. Their hockey team is like their everything, and one day the star player of the team does an act against the coach's daughter that sort of spirals this whole discussion in the town and divides it. And so definitely look up trigger warnings for this book if you're interested in picking it up. But this book broke me, y'all. Like, I was sobbing uncontrollably at the end, and I just have such fond memories, not because this book is like good in the sense of like it makes you feel happy, but I have fond memories of reading this because like a book has never sparked so much emotion in me in my life. Like, I felt happy, I felt sad, I felt devastated, I felt angry, I felt rage when I read this book, and I've never had such an emotional roller coaster of an experience when reading a novel. So if you're looking to feel everything under the sun, you definitely need to read Beartown by Frederick Bachman. The reason why Beartown is number 2 on my list is only because my number 1 spot is going to go to another Frederick Bachman. And it's not that I don't love Beartown, because this is still probably my favorite book of all time. Like, I'm really struggling to like explain this to myself, but these books really just come like hand in hand to me. Like, this book I love, but it doesn't make me feel joy. It just makes me feel mad. And so that's why I don't feel like it can be my number 1 book. But Anxious People by Frederick Bachman made me feel very similarly in the fact that I felt every emotion under the sun, but at the end of this one, I just felt way more hopeful than I did reading Beartown. So that's why this isn't my #1 book, because I want to feel somewhat happy when I read books, and I just never really felt joy in this one. But I definitely felt joy when I read Anxious People by Frederick Bachman, because I just feel like it really made me believe in humanity, whereas Beartown made me hate humanity. So the duality of man is all I'm saying. It's like there's some very awful people in this world, and there's some very great people and wonderful people in this world. And so that's why I love Frederick Bachman. If you couldn't tell, Frederick Bachman was my favorite author of the year. He got my 2 top slots, and I just loved this book so much, and I'm gonna get emotional talking about it because it really just did that. Like, it did that. It did what it came to do and so much more. And similar to Loveless, this is a book that I had to take my time with because I was just constantly crying throughout the entire thing. Like, I literally was sobbing when reading certain pages, and I couldn't even move to the next page because I couldn't see out of my eyeballs because I was just crying. And so this was an emotional whirlwind of an experience, and I am so grateful to have read Beartown because it led me to discover Frederick Bachman, and it led me to Anxious People, which I think might be my favorite book I've ever read. And I'm literally gonna cry thinking about this book right now because it means so much to me. Oh my God, why? Get it together, Meredith, you're trying to film. Do I need to take a crying break to film this video? I had to take crying breaks when reading this book. Oh my God, Frederick Bachman's mind is just too powerful. Anyways, let's talk about Anxious People. Obviously, it means a lot to me. It's making me emotional just thinking about it right now. And I just love, again, like, the themes in this book. That's what really makes me want to like shove this book in everyone's face, because it makes you realize like you don't know what's going on in strangers' lives. You can never make assumptions about people. Like, you need to like get to the heart of them and like really understand them before you can like make any judgment. And even like when you get there, you shouldn't be making that judgment. Like, there's just so many themes in here that I think are so accessible to so many people. I don't think you could read this book and hate it. Like, if you've read Anxious People and you hate it, like, don't tell me, first of all, because you're gonna break my heart. But second of all, like, actually tell me, because I want to know why you don't like this book, because it's just such a great exploration of humanity. That is what Frederick Bachman does the best. He explores humanity like no one's business. He just understands the human experience in ways that like I never thought were possible. And I can't talk coherently about this book clearly, and it's just like, I feel like it's very obvious how much this book means to me. So I'm just gonna give you guys a quick summary, really quick, so that if you're interested in picking up Anxious People, you know what it's about. Anxious People follows a great cast of characters, and it's basically following the aftermath of a bank robbery. So someone goes to rob a bank, and then they crash into an apartment viewing where there's a bunch of different people. So you're exploring the lives of all these people that are being held hostage by the bank robber, and you're also finding out about the bank robber themselves. And so it's just so interesting and wonderful, and I really want to reread this, but I'm not emotionally prepared. So yeah, Anxious People is my #1 book of the year, and probably my #1 book ever. I know I've said Beartown is my favorite for a long time, but the more that I think about it, the more that I realize how much I love this book and how much it means to me. And oh my God, I'm crying again. It's fine, we're fine. Okay, we did it. We talked about my top 10, and we only got emotional in the last 5 minutes, so I feel like that's a win. So that is it for my top 10 books of 2020. Let me know what your favorite books of 2020 were in the comment section. I would love to chat and find some book recommendations, or any of my top 10 on your top 10. Let me know if we have similar taste, because we would vibe. And yeah, again, that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching and for being here today. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it. It would really support me and my channel, and also subscribe down below for more book related content. I post twice a week. I also have my Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads, Amazon wishlist, all that good stuff in the description down below if you're interested in checking it out. And without further ado, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!